This 1 Degree Outside video is sponsored by the Topsfield Fair, America's oldest fair. You can pre-order your admission, meal, and ride tickets today at topsfieldfair.org and join the fun October 4th through 14th, conveniently located on Route 1, just off of Interstate 95.
Hi, Matt Noyes, Evening Essentials on a Wednesday evening. 1 Degree Outside Weather Network. You can find all of our videos, including the insights look, the deep dive into meteorology over the next several days at 1degreeoutside.com. But we've got a lot to dive into here. There's plenty to cover in this Evening Essentials. First of all, for most of us, this evening and tonight is fairly quiet. The clouds will thicken, the fog will develop, temperatures will dip down to just under 60 degrees on average, and the wind isn't bad. But on the Cape and the islands, the wind kicks up tonight, particularly after midnight, a northeast wind that'll begin gusting over 35 miles per hour, and tomorrow it'll gust over 40 on the Cape and the islands. Let's go ahead and dive into it here. First of all, the radar prediction by 11 o'clock or shortly thereafter tonight, you get some showers and rain starting to come onto the islands and the Cape. Most of us not into it yet, but by tomorrow morning at 7:30, now you've got the showers coming all the way up to Boston, out into eastern Connecticut at 395, running through the Providence area, and it is pouring tomorrow morning on the Cape and the islands. It's going to be windy, it's going to be raining, it's going to look and feel like a wet nor'easter, and indeed, it will be. Coastal flooding, we'll talk about that here in just a moment. As we get through the middle portion of the day, notice the showers expanding out to the 495 belt, coming up across the New Hampshire state line. But the farther north that you go, you don't really see a lot of rain. In fact, the opposite. It's going to be sunshine across some of northern New England for a pretty decent day. We'll look at the mountain forecast, including the summits here, coming up in just a moment. By the time we get to the end of Thursday, now you've got the rain continuing to come down when you get onto the Cape and the islands. Look, there may be some minor coastal flooding at Nantucket over the course of tomorrow's high tide. Once we get to Friday, we think that expands up the coastline, and I'll get to why that is here in just one moment. By tomorrow evening, you've still got the showers coming in eastern portions of New England, but again, the farther north and west you go, the more removed from them you tend to be. Total rainfall forecast. Well, look, some of this moisture, we've been talking about this in Insights last week and this week, is the fact that some of the moisture is actually left over from Francine. So there is tropical moisture in this, and you can get pretty efficient rainfall. And that's why it's 1.5 to 2 inches of rain from the outer portion of Cape Cod down to Nantucket. Martha's Vineyard picking up a little bit less, but nonetheless, the farther north that you go, notice how the amounts really drop off. This is just in the next 24 hours, right? You saw in Insights that we added on the next few days, and that changes the picture for some of us, but not for northern New England, really. Overnight lows tonight will get down to about 60, but again, with a rising dew point, you'll be talking about developing areas of fog, not just at the coast, but even farther inland as well, as the dew point goes up, even for places like the Worcester Hills. And during the course of your Thursday, your dew point for a lot of eastern and southern New England does rise back to the 60s. Certainly a twinge of humidity for a lot of us, although with a northeast wind that'll be blowing and the showers, I'm not sure it'll necessarily feel humid so much as it will raw. But nonetheless, notice your high temperatures Thursday. Very different in northern and western New England than it is south and east. This is where you get more sunshine, where you stay drier. So wind gusts, you can see the storm circulation down to the south. Now, we've coded this still for tropical strength on the gusts. Now, remember, a tropical storm, you need sustained winds of 39 miles per hour or greater. We may not be far off from that in all spots, but we'll get to that in a moment. Notice your gusts going over 39 miles per hour, so tropical storm force gusts anyway. When you get onto portions of Nantucket, this will be during the course of Thursday. This is by Thursday late day. Now, watch by Friday. You'd think, does it ease off a little? No, it breaks off to the north a bit more, and we start getting those gusts tickling along Cape Ann and right along the South Shore for that matter as well. So a lot of eastern Mass. Friday is your gustiest day. It's coming out of the northeast, and by the time we get to Saturday morning, a lot of that starts to back off. It's not going to be a pretty day Saturday, I don't think, as you saw in Insights, but the wind begins to throttle back. Forget about gusts now. Let's shift gears just a little bit. Sustained wind. Remember I told you need 39 miles per hour or greater sustained wind to be a tropical storm force, right? Well, you've got 34 mile per hour sustained wind at the Owl tomorrow, 38 miles per hour right in between Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket. The yellow that you see here is 10-foot waves, so you've got 8 to 10 feet either side of Nantucket by the time we get to Thursday late day, and then your waves drop off in 2-foot increments the farther north you go from there. So this is your 10, your 8, your 6 to 8 feet that build northward, so some ferry impact is certainly a possibility for us later Thursday and again on Friday. Now, the waves not necessarily built as high in eastern portions of Massachusetts, still not real safe for pleasure craft boaters, but nonetheless, you can see your sustained wind is a good deal lower, and it's another order of magnitude lower as you make your way up the main coastline. But bottom line, it is going to be blowing when we get onto the islands, and that's why I mentioned that minor coastal flood risk for you on the islands, particularly Nantucket, anything that faces north and east. And then for more of us, some minor coastal flooding as we get into Friday's high tide with the wind coming out of the northeast, and you saw it would get stronger for many. In the mountains, it's absolutely gorgeous for our Thursday. We've got sunshine, maybe a pop-up shower when you get into the southern portion of the White Mountains through Grafton County. That should be about it. Other than that, high temperatures running about 80. Even the summits are in the 70s. Lakes region will be in the 70s. More clouds around, a moderate UV index at best. A little chop, though. The wind is not that strong in the lakes region. Again, very different from when you get into portions of southeastern Mass and Cape Cod. The beaches have a moderate to high rip current for tomorrow. You'd figure that would be the case with the waves coming in. With the weather so different from one spot to the other, we encourage you to grab our app where you can get hyper local and pinpoint your location. Just download Noyes' 1 Degree Outside weather app. We'll see you with an update first thing in the morning at 1degreeoutside.com and on all of our social media handles, the number 1 Degree Outside. Have a good night.